What's up, everybody? It's Jared with Capture the Magic. And back in July, we had a video that was talking about a ferry boat accident that happened at the Ticket and Transportation Center that was taking some guests and when the park was closing in Magic Kingdom back to the Ticket and Transportation Center. And there was an accident that was a pretty major one, as they had a lot of people taken to the hospital. You had multiple different jurisdictions of firefighters and first responders that showed up. And at the time, it was kind of scarce on the details. Disney wasn't saying anything about the specifics of what happened, but we finally do have some details about that incident here. So this video is an update about what the details of that incident. So we're going to go through this from Blog Mickey here. It says, incident report, pregnant woman fell on belly. 19 people were transported to hospitals following the Walt Disney World ferryboat crash. This is a 911 incident log obtained by Blog Mickey offers our best look yet into the recent Walt Disney World ferryboat crash that took place late at night on July 30th. The new 911 call and incident report provide insight into the traumatic injuries that guests sustained during the hard landing, quote unquote, around 11:40 p.m. So we previously covered the ferryboat incident, but we had to rely on some firsthand reports from the perspective of guests on the boat, which some of those were descriptions of people were flying through the air, people being thrown everywhere. As if you know about the ferry boats, it is basically, for the most part, outside of a few places to set, it is really standing room only. So when you do have an incident where you run into something, obviously a lot of people are going to fall forward, and those things are typically very packed whenever Magic Kingdom is closing. While useful to provide the perspective of a single guest, we have been working to provide a more complete report of the incident that reportedly led to more than a dozen injuries. As previously reported, the incident took place late at night on July 30th. New call logs obtained by Blog Mickey show that the first 911 call was received at 11:40 p.m. Within 2 minutes, first responders were en route to the Transportation and Ticket Center. According to the logs, the first unit arrived at 1247 Seas Drive within 2.5 minutes of being assigned. Pretty good response time. An earlier report cited guests on the ferry boat who said that there were difficult conditions, such as heavy rain, when the incident occurred. Photos from the scene did show evidence that it had been raining pretty recently. The incident log doesn't describe the weather conditions at the time of the incident, and requests to Walt Disney World about the incident have not been answered. Disney has not said anything. They haven't said anything to even traditional media outlets. They have been pretty radio silent on this, which is probably due to, I'm assuming, their lawyers are telling them to just have no comment on this situation. A guest who was on the ferryboat described the crash by saying that, quote, people weren't just falling, they were flying. The guest described the scene as chaotic after the crash, with guests scattered everywhere. The incident log describes some of the injuries that the first responders observed. One of the first guests in the incident log is a 25-year-old pregnant woman who fell on her belly as a result of the ferryboat crash. Multiple injuries were listed as traumatic, but not emergency. Essentially, this was coded as a mass casualty incident where multiple injuries needed to be attended to, but the injuries were not life-threatening. I did not realize that, obviously I'm not a firefighter or a first responder, but I did not know that you would report this as a mass casualty incident. Usually I figured that was involving deaths or something along those lines in an incident. The incident log goes on to describe that one person had a possible foot fracture. Another person was described as having a wrist injury. Other injuries included a patient with an elbow, wrist, and hip injury. The incident log said that first responders were dealing with approximately 20 patients as a result of the ferryboat crash. Due to the number of people injured, the incident required mutual aid assistance from both Osceola and Orange County rescue units. Information from the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District said that there were a total of 19 transports to area hospitals as a result of the ferryboat crash. That is a lot of people. If you think about, an incident like this, that's not nothing to have 19 people and basically 20 some odd injuries from this incident, which means that, again, this thing had to be moving at a pretty decent speed for at least for a ferryboat of that size to result in injuries like this. 12 of those patients were taken by CFTOD ambulances. 4 patients were transferred by Orange County first responders, and the remaining 3 were transported by Osceola County. The patients were taken to at least 4 different hospitals, including Celebration, Horizon West, Flamingo Crossings, and Dr. Phillips. Some units needed to return to the Transportation and Ticket Center to transport more patients. Man. Of course, this question still remains of what exactly caused the ferryboat crash. Walt Disney World did not return a request for information, and the CFTOD was only involved in the medical response, not in the operation of the ferryboat. Following the incident, Walt Disney World did remove trash cans from the ferry boats as it was rumored that a child was pinned during the ferry boat crash and that trash cans had caused some injuries. The cause of injuries was not outlined in the incident report, only the nature of the injuries. So there's actually a little bit more we can learn about this from actually Blog Mickey's Facebook page or their article that they posted here from comments. John Kakowski, perhaps, where he says, "We were in the boat before that ferry, so decided to wait out the rain as it was raining so hard you couldn't see across the lagoon or the end of the pier. Saw it happen too. Hit the dock pretty hard." Brennan Perry said, "We were on the next ferry over that night. The rain was insane. It was truly a monsoon." So, I mean, at least from two people that were there that night, it does seem like there was pretty significant rain, which then brings into question, should the ferry boats have been running in those conditions, which is likely why Disney is not saying anything. And I had said at the time, there's really no way around this where it's Disney's fault. It's either that they shouldn't have been running these due to the weather, and obviously that if it was raining as hard as they're saying it was here, obviously your vision of being able to see the dock and slow down and things like that would be impaired. The other issue would be if it was user error by the captain or pilot, that they didn't follow procedure or whatever it was. And I'd also said at the time, the potential there, the other scenario that could be there where it also would be on Disney was if there was something wrong with the ferry boat that was known about and caused this incident. Now, given that the ferry boats were running the very next day, it doesn't seem like that there would have been any mechanical failures or any issues on the ferry boat. So then it very likely just narrows it down to the weather or user error, which you could say is both. But I guess at the same time, if they were okay to go and the captain or pilot just could not see very well, obviously that would call into question more of the decision to run the ferry boats. So it seems very likely from this that it probably was weather related, which undoubtedly is going to bring into questions about, who made the call to go ahead and let these things run during a storm like this. And I'm not going to be surprised if one of the next stories we see about this is going to be that there are lawsuits around this, especially given you have 19 people taken to hospital, some, pretty significant injuries. Hopefully the woman that is pregnant is okay. Hopefully the baby is okay. But obviously if something happened there that injured the child or something happened, God forbid, I can definitely imagine lawsuits coming out of that. So I don't think this is the last time we are going to hear about this. And, you can say if it's raining like that, like guests just should have known, hey, I'm not going to take the ferry boat. That doesn't seem safe. But at the same time, you're on vacation. People are going to assume it's same thing with an airplane, that if the plane is going to take off or if the ferry boats are running or whatever transportation method is being used, that it is safe because Disney has done they had the procedures in place. They've checked this out. They're deeming it to be safe if they are running. So I don't think there's really any way that Disney would have a defense that they are not liable for this. Again, which is probably why they are really not saying anything about this. And the only information about this is because Blog Mickey, was able to obtain this information. And the only thing we've really heard about Disney changing any protocols since this incident is the removal of the trash cans. In the other video I talked about too, there was some people were saying that strollers were knocked over, some kids hit their heads. Obviously, they said one child was pinned behind a trash can. I think very, very likely you are going to see some lawsuits out of this, unless Disney has already reached out to the parties involved in this and probably has either offered or already paid out some monetary payouts here to, avoid a lawsuit, because I can imagine the last thing that Disney wants are major headlines out there about a lawsuit where their ferry boats were involved in a major accident. And I say major just given the fact that people were injured. You had 19, 20 some odd people that were taken to local area hospitals, some pretty significant injuries, it seems, on some of them at least. They don't want that in the news. They don't want the idea that Disney World is unsafe in the transportation methods or anywhere else on property. So it's likely that they could be doing that. So you could see a lawsuit in the future. Maybe somebody's not willing to take the payout, but I would bet, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, but if I were a betting man, I would say that they probably have reached out to these people and trying to settle these things to avoid a lawsuit. It would be my guess here. And more than likely, obviously, from hindsight here, shouldn't have been running the boats. Definitely seems like, unless they were on the boats and it really picked up rain. But at the same time, I mean, Disney's pretty vigilant. If you're at the pools and they see lightning nearby or rain nearby, like they usually keep an eye on weather around the area. So one would assume they knew about the weather coming in, or that was, just about to arrive or was on top of them. Now, obviously, given the rain seems to be the primary reason for this incident, it definitely calls into question the procedures in place at Disney World for things like this. If it's raining that hard, one would assume surely somebody would have said, hey, let's hold off on running the boats for now, or especially if it was raining as hard as some of those people were saying where you barely could see. And given living in Florida, I mean, when it does rain, it can rain very, very hard. I have been driving before where you basically have to pull over and just wait for it to pass. And many times it passes fairly quickly. And personally speaking, I mean, I've ridden the ferry boats tons of times, taken Disney transportation tons of times, and I've never once really had a second thought about it. I mean, as you know, there's a lot of things you can criticize about Disney's decisions in the theme parks, but I've really never questioned the safety end of things, of the rides or transportation methods. But this definitely brings into question the protocols around running these boats in this type of situation, and especially given there was an incident not even that long ago on the same ferry boat that was, you know, involved in this incident here. I think there is starting to get some question marks around the ferry boats. It definitely doesn't give you a lot of confidence, perhaps, in the next time it rains. I mean, personally speaking, if it's raining and I'm in Magic Kingdom and it's raining very hard, more than likely, I won't be taking the ferry boats. I will say, usually we use the ferry boats just because the monorail usually takes longer. Taking the bus sometimes. If we're staying on a resort, sometimes we'll take the bus. But the ferry boats typically are the quickest way to get back to the TTC if you have driven in. And that obviously holds the most people. And from what I've been able to gather, the ferry boats can hold around 600 people on these boats. So the fact that you only had 20 people injured to the extent they were, if, you know, the rate of speed they were going and the impact from some descriptions, that's probably actually kind of remarkable that there are only 20 people that were injured. You know, hopefully they learn from it. Hopefully this doesn't happen again. God forbid it happens again. Either way, hopefully Disney makes some changes here. We'll see if there's any new developments in this story, but we at least have an update on this as some of the details there, and it definitely seems like weather was more than likely the primary cause of the issue here. And hopefully next time it rains like that, they don't run the ferry boats. Hopefully they learn from that. We'll see if they do. But if there's any updates on this further or any developments here, be sure to let you know on here on this channel. But for now, that is going to be it, though, for this video. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel as we do lots of coverage here of Universal Studios, Epic Universe, Disney World, and pop culture. And let us know in the comments, what do you think about all this? And until next time, we will see you in the parks.